Hi, I'm Snez, personal trainer, healthy lifestyle coach, and your guide to feeling your best. This podcast is a segment from my weekly radio show, Wellbeing Wednesdays, broadcast live on 88.6 Plenty Valley FM. It's all about sharing real, practical tips to help you move more, eat better, and live healthier without the overwhelm. Let's dive in, shall we? Coming up next, going to be talking about a saying that you may have heard of, and that is 10 seconds on the lips and a lifetime on the hips, which I really dislike, by the way. But that quote actually has come from Jack LaLanne, who is a legendary figure in the fitness history, and he was known as the godfather of fitness, and he opened gyms back in the 1930s, way before fitness centres and YMCAs and gyms were a really big thing. He hosted one of the longest running TV fitness shows, and he even invented popular machines that we're still using today, like leg extension and cable pulleys. But he also came up with that catchy saying, and you probably have heard that. You probably didn't know where it's actually come from. And that catchy saying about food reflected what we kind of understood at that time, that fat cells were just a one-way street, where basically once you put on or you filled up those fat cells, it was hard for them to be released. And we thought of them as passive storage containers, almost like just a storage container that was easy to put fat into, hard to get it out. But now we know something a little bit different. And we know that fat cells aren't just cells for storage, but they're an active and living cell and active organ in your system. And other than storing fat, they do have a lot of storing energy. They do have a lot of other activities, such as regulating appetite, communicating with your immune system, and influencing your metabolism, which is how much energy you burn on a day-to-day basis. And what we do know today, though, is that they are constantly changing. And a healthy fat cell brings the storage in and then will release it when you need it. So when you eat more calories than that you burn through your day-to-day activities, fat cells will grow bigger and they'll increase in number to hold on to that. Because the thing is that with our bodies, what we tend to forget is that our bodies are solely focused on your survival. So if the body's going to receive some extra nutrition in the way of extra calories and food, it will hold on to that just in case there may be a time of lack. So it's actually doing us a favor. But when you happen to miss a snack, or you're working later than what you thought, or you've gone out for a longer walk than what you probably imagined, and all of a sudden your energy levels are low, then the body will access those fat stores. And this continual in and out, that sort of revolving door, opening and closing continuously, is how a healthy fat cell should work. And what's interesting is that they are constantly moving energy, stored energy, in and out of them. And in one moment, the fat cells breaks down to store the fat, to release the energy. And at the same time, they can absorb some stored energy back in and store it again. And at first, that might sound a little bit frustrating, because you're like, well, if I'm doing all this hard work and trying to burn off some extra storage that I do have, then what's the point if it's just going to fill back up again? But the good news is that depending on your lifestyle choices, and that's how frequently you move, the type of food that you're eating, and the way that you manage your stress, it actually impacts on the way that your fat cells store energy and the way that they release it. So you could probably guess with what I was mentioning about the survival nature of our bodies, is that if our bodies are receiving healthier, nourishing food, if we're giving our bodies food more regularly by eating frequently, then our body starts to feel safer, and it's more likely to use up those energy stores in the event that you need it. Whereas if the body is feeling a little bit uncertain, because there is stress on your body through either food or through lack of sleep, or not moving enough, what happens is that the body becomes less efficient at releasing that energy because it sees it that you're almost living in an environment where there is a natural threat. So when you're sedentary or when you're in a higher stress level, the fat becomes more about storage and about inflammation. And it's not just about that ebb and flow of providing you the energy that you need consistently throughout the day. It starts to become more about survival and starts to hold on to things in the event that there is a circumstance where it is going to have to provide that energy in the event of a stressful situation, which the reality is in today's day and age, we're not likely to come across something like that in our day-to-day, but it's how our body thinks and it's how our body prepares us to survive. So when we're thinking about our fat cells, the real difference is in how your fat cells behave is based on your activity levels. So what's really interesting, and this is new information that we're finding out about, is that if you're more active, you're moving more, and it really isn't dependent on the type of activity. It's just about moving your body and utilizing your blood glucose as energy. So the more you're moving, the fat cells have more what we call mitochondria, and they're little tiny power plants inside the cells that generate energy. Now, we probably didn't know that, or you probably haven't heard that before, and this was sort of new information to me as well, is that our fat cells do contain mitochondria, which is super exciting because we can build on that. And what happens is when fat cells have lots of mitochondria, they can act more like brown fat, which burns more calories efficiently to generate heat and energy. On the other hand, if you're sedentary, we lose those mitochondria because another really interesting fact about the human body is that unless you're utilizing any aspect of your function, the body will not sustain it because it requires effort and energy. So if you're not being active, the body doesn't need these extra cells of mitochondria, so it will break them down. And then when you lose those mitochondria cells, your fat cells become more of a white fat that stores more energy and also, though, produces harmful substances that increase inflammation, they reduce insulin sensitivity and increase the risk of things such as diabetes and other health problems. So again, we see another case for being active and moving more, and that is about the way that our fat cells function. It's not just about burning calories. And this new understanding allows us to shift away from the idea that we're simply losing fat and move more toward improving how our fat cells function metabolically. And movement and exercise don't just burn calories, they actually change how these fat cells behave, making them healthier but also more energy efficient. And being sedentary makes fat not only more abundant but also more damaging metabolically. So even if you're someone that's not carrying a lot of weight, if you are inactive, these fat cells could be still behaving in a way that's going to be increasing your inflammation and impacting on your insulin levels and impacting on your immune system. So the answer always is to move more regularly, consistent exercise, whether that's walking, light activity, whether it's yoga, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's just doing some strength-based exercises at home. It's just about physically moving more. It's going to help to increase the mitochondria in your fat cells and improve your overall metabolic health. And the thing is that nutrition does matter, but activity transforms the way that those fat cells are functioning. So prioritizing movement at the moment we are hearing is a lot more relevant and important to our long-term health than nutrition is, as much as I really dislike saying that, but that is definitely all the new research that we are hearing about at the moment. The other thing that you can do is make sure that you are avoiding prolonged sitting. So break up your inactivity throughout the day to encourage that healthy fat cell function. So just moving. I'm here in this studio for 2 hours, but I will tell you, I up and have a bit of a dance in between, shuffle the shoulders around, move around in my chair. I'm going up, getting drinks in between segments and trying to move around as well. And also focus on things that are more structured as well, like cardio or strength training. If you do have access to that, remembering you can even do all of these exercises at home. So even though that comment is something that 10 seconds on the lips, a lifetime on the hips, isn't necessarily true, because we're seeing that 10 seconds, wherever that extra fuel has gone, whatever you've consumed is always coming in and out. And there is always that opportunity to create healthy fat cells, which is actually more impactful by doing that through movement than worrying about being too hyper-focused on what we're actually consuming. Thanks for joining me on this segment from Wellbeing Wednesdays, as heard live on 88.6 Plenty Valley FM. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who might find it helpful and subscribe so you never miss a show. Want to catch the live broadcast? Well, you can tune in Wednesdays from 12 till 2 p.m. on 88.6 Plenty Valley FM, or find my info on Wellbeing Wednesdays with Snez, the Facebook group. Take care, stay healthy, and remember, it's the little choices every day that create big changes. Talk soon.